The rain had just started to fall, drizzling over the cobbled streets of Covent Garden, turning them slick and shimmering under the yellow glow of the streetlights. Oliver Thompson, a soft-spoken architect in his late 20s, was nursing a cappuccino in the corner of a small cafe tucked between two art galleries. London had always been his sanctuary, a city bustling with life, yet vast enough to lose himself in. Sitting there, sketching lines for his latest project, he noticed the chatter of patrons around him fade, replaced by the rhythm of raindrops and the faint hum of jazz playing from the speakers. Then, almost as if fate had orchestrated it, she walked in. Amelia Carter, her auburn hair damp from the rain, wrapped in a dark trench coat, and with a book tucked under her arm, scanned the room and found the only seat available right beside Oliver. She offered a polite smile, but it was her eyes, vibrant and endlessly curious, that caught him off guard. He looked away, shy and slightly nervous, but felt her presence beside him like a warm glow. She settled in, took out her book, and for a few minutes, they both sat in companionable silence. But then, almost as if by fate, a spill happened. Her coffee cup tipped, splattering onto his sketchbook. She gasped, apologizing profusely. Her cheeks flushed. "I'm so sorry. I can get you a new one," she offered, her voice filled with genuine remorse. Oliver, charmed by her sincerity and warmth, reassured her that it was fine. And after a few awkward exchanges and laughs, they slipped into an unexpected but delightful conversation. As the days turned into weeks, Oliver and Amelia found themselves seeking each other out in the same cafe, and soon, elsewhere, across the city. Oliver was drawn to her infectious laughter, the way she looked at the world with such awe. Amelia loved the quiet strength in Oliver, his thoughtful pauses, the way he looked at her, like she was the only one in the room. Together, they explored London's hidden gems, the vintage bookstores in Notting Hill, the quiet gardens in Kew, and the rooftops overlooking St. Paul's Cathedral, where they would talk about life, dreams, and fears. They were opposites in many ways. Oliver was meticulous and guarded, while Amelia was spontaneous and open-hearted. Yet something between them felt right, like two pieces of a puzzle fitting seamlessly together. One chilly autumn night, as they strolled along the banks of the Thames, Amelia took his hand. Her fingers were cold, but her grip was warm and reassuring. "You know," she began, her voice soft, "I don't usually do this. I mean, I don't open up like this to just anyone." Oliver looked down at her, his heart racing, realizing he felt the same. "Me neither," he replied, a quiet smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. They stopped, looking out over the river, watching the city lights reflect off the water, and in that moment, words weren't necessary. They had found something rare and beautiful in each other, something that words would only diminish. But love stories, as they both would come to realize, are rarely without their trials. Oliver was offered an incredible opportunity, a prestigious project in Paris, a dream job he had worked years for. Excitement filled him, but so did dread. When he told Amelia, her face fell, but she forced a smile, squeezing his hand in support. "You have to go, Oliver," she whispered, her voice catching. "This is everything you've worked for." They promised each other they'd make it work. That distance wouldn't break them. But the reality proved harder than either had anticipated. Letters turned into texts Texts turned into brief phone calls, and soon the space between them felt more than physical. It was emotional. Oliver buried himself in his work, driven by ambition, while Amelia, back in London, felt a loneliness settle in her heart. As the months passed, both grew in their own ways, but also apart. Amelia poured herself into her own passion, working on an art exhibit she'd been dreaming of. But every piece she curated reminded her of Oliver, his steady gaze, his reassuring presence. She felt incomplete, like a part of her was missing. And Oliver, though surrounded by success, found himself thinking of her more often than he cared to admit. They fought occasionally over the phone, each frustrated by the distance, feeling the strain, but unwilling to let go of the love that had come to define them. It was a rainy evening, nearly a year after they'd first met, that they crossed paths again in London. Oliver had come back to the city for a brief visit, and Amelia, on an impulse, had gone to the cafe where they first met, as if drawn there by a magnetic pull. There he was, sitting in the same seat, sketchbook open, lost in thought. She stood frozen in the doorway, heart pounding. He looked up, and their eyes met, a flood of memories and emotions washing over them both. "Amelia," he breathed, a look of longing in his eyes that mirrored her own. They sat together, talking for hours, pouring out everything they had been holding in. The pain, the loneliness, the moments they had doubted, and most importantly, the love that had never faded. They realized that, despite everything, they were still each other's home, and nothing, not even an ocean between them, could change that. Oliver confessed, "I thought I could be happy without you, but I was wrong. No success or city can compare to what I feel when I'm with you." Amelia smiled through her tears, her hand reaching across the table to take his. "Then let's make it work," she whispered, her voice filled with a newfound determination. From that day forward, they were inseparable again, deciding that no opportunity or distance would ever keep them apart. They learned to compromise, to communicate, to be each other's safe place in a world that was often chaotic and unpredictable. They built a life together in London, filling it with art, architecture, laughter, and love. They knew now that love was more than a feeling. It was a choice, one they were willing to make every single day. Under the London sky, they walked hand in hand, knowing that life would have its challenges, but they would face them together. Oliver and Amelia's love was not perfect, but it was theirs, beautiful, flawed, and enduring. A love story written not in grand gestures, but in the quiet, shared moments that truly mattered. The next few months were a whirlwind of shared laughter, late-night conversations, and renewed intimacy as Oliver and Amelia rediscovered each other. They spent their weekends exploring the city in ways they hadn't before. Cozy markets in Camden, the vibrancy of Soho, quiet galleries off the beaten path. Oliver, usually reserved, found himself softened by Amelia's energy, and Amelia, always so spontaneous, found grounding in Oliver's calm presence. They were a balance, each complementing the other, and each learning the little quirks and habits that only came with time. One evening, as the first snow of winter began to fall, Oliver invited Amelia to his family's holiday gathering in a small village just outside of London. Nervous yet excited, Amelia accepted. And as they traveled there, she listened to him talk about his childhood, his dreams, and his memories. When they arrived, Amelia was welcomed warmly, Oliver's family immediately embracing her. She felt like she belonged, part of something bigger than herself, and she couldn't help but feel her heart swell with love. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, they snuck outside to watch the snow fall. "You know," Amelia murmured, her breath visible in the cold, "I think I'm falling in love with you all over again." Oliver, pulling her close, whispered back, "Then fall. I'll be here to catch you." As winter melted into spring, Oliver began to think about their future more seriously. He'd never been one to believe in grand romantic gestures, but the idea of spending his life with Amelia was growing in his mind every day. He spent weeks planning the perfect proposal, carefully choosing a place that meant something to them both, the rooftop overlooking St. Paul's Cathedral, where they had shared their first kiss. On the chosen night, as the sun set over London, casting a golden glow over the city, Oliver took Amelia's hand and led her up to the rooftop. They stood in silence for a moment, taking in the view, before Oliver turned to her, his heart pounding. "Amelia," he began, his voice barely above a whisper, "I've loved you from the moment we met in that cafe. You're the reason I look forward to each day, the one who makes life's quiet moments feel extraordinary. I want to spend every day making you as happy as you've made me." Amelia's eyes filled with tears as Oliver dropped to one knee, holding out a simple yet beautiful ring. "Will you marry me?" She nodded, unable to speak, a wide smile on her face as she whispered, "Yes." They kissed, the city below them, a silent witness to their joy. And in that moment, they felt invincible. The months after the proposal were a mixture of joy, anticipation, and a fair share of stress. They navigated the intricacies of wedding planning, combining traditions and personal touches that reflected their unique bond. Both were excited, but also nervous. Oliver's meticulous planning sometimes clashed with Amelia's free-spirited approach, but they quickly learned the art of compromise, laughing through disagreements and reminding each other that the day was about their love, not perfection. In the lead-up to the wedding, they also faced personal growth. Amelia found herself doubting her worthiness for love so unconditional, fears from past relationships creeping into her mind. Oliver, noticing her unease, pulled her close one night and said, "You don't have to be perfect, Amelia. I love you for all your quirks, your dreams, your flaws. That's what makes you the woman I want to spend my life with." His words reassured her, and she found herself falling even deeper, knowing that she had found a partner who loved her exactly as she was. Their wedding day arrived, an intimate gathering in a picturesque garden in the countryside, filled with friends and family, laughter and music. Amelia, in a simple but elegant dress, glowed with happiness, and Oliver, standing at the altar, looked at her as if she were the only person in the world. The vows they exchanged were personal, honest, filled with promises that acknowledged not just the romance, but the reality of life they were committing to share. As they said, "I do," under the open sky, surrounded by loved ones, it felt like the beginning of something magical. The reception was filled with laughter, heartfelt toasts, and dancing under the stars. That night, as they lay beside each other, finally husband and wife, they felt a peace and contentment neither had known before. They had found their home in each other. Marriage brought new challenges, as both learned the intricacies of sharing a life fully. Balancing their careers with their relationship took effort, patience, and a lot of late-night talks. Oliver's projects became more demanding, and Amelia was offered a major role in her gallery's upcoming exhibit, which required frequent travel. Tensions rose, and they found themselves arguing over things that once felt trivial. But through every argument and every moment of doubt, they made a commitment to communicate, to listen, and to never go to bed angry. After a particularly heated argument one night, Amelia stormed out, walking the quiet London streets in the rain, needing time to think. Oliver, feeling a pang of fear and regret, went after her. He found her sitting alone on a bench, soaked but resolute. "Amelia," he whispered, kneeling beside her, "I don't want to lose you. I know this isn't easy, but you're worth every challenge, every hard day. I need you to know that." They sat together in the rain, holding each other close, realizing that love wasn't just about the good days. It was about sticking together through the storms. As time went on, they began talking about having a family. Amelia was initially hesitant, afraid that a child might change their dynamic, that they might lose the magic they had worked so hard to create. But Oliver, ever the gentle encourager, reminded her, "Our love will only grow. We'll have more to share, more to look forward to." And so they took the leap. When Amelia discovered she was pregnant, they both cried with joy, feeling a love they hadn't known before. The pregnancy brought new layers to their relationship as they navigated the excitement and fears together, preparing to welcome a new life into the world. They painted the nursery together, dreaming of their future, their laughter filling the empty room. When their daughter was finally born, they were overwhelmed with gratitude, feeling that their love story had taken on a new and beautiful chapter. Years passed, and Oliver and Amelia grew old together, their love maturing and deepening with time. Their lives were filled with countless memories, watching their daughter grow, traveling together, building a home filled with laughter and warmth. They faced more challenges, of course, health scares, career changes, and the inevitable trials that come with age, but they weathered each storm side by side, hand in hand, knowing they were stronger together. One evening, as they sat on the porch of their home, looking out at the garden they had tended over the years, Oliver took Amelia's hand. "We've had a good life, haven't we?" he asked, his voice filled with nostalgia. Amelia, her hair now silver, smiled, her eyes as bright as the day they met. "The best life," she replied, her voice filled with love. They sat in comfortable silence, their hearts content, knowing that they had shared a love story that was, in every way, their own.